So continuing on to section 7.3.1, we're using the cd command, change directories, and then we're doing an ls, and we're examining the different file types based on color. And we're going to, there's more than just 4 types here, but these are some of the basics you should know. So if it's dark blue, it's a directory. If it's black or white, it's a plain old file. We don't see any files here, so let's go ahead and create a couple of files. So I'm going to return to my home directory. I'm going to use the touch command, so file 1. I'm going to use the up arrow to put the previous command on the screen. That's the up arrow. And I'm going to create a file 2. I just did a backspace and replaced the 1 with the 2. And let's do an ls-l. And we can see here the 2 files that I just created. And because the background is black, the file is white. But here's another thing you should notice here. If you go right before the permissions, we're going to look at permissions in another chapter. That first character, just before the permissions, we see a D there. That tells you the file type. So in this case, the D means directory. And if you see a hyphen, that's just a plain text file. That means it's something readable. Okay, you can go in that file and see what's there. And we have many different file types. Those are just 2 that we're considering first. So plain text files and directories. So in 7.3.2, we're looking at the ls-a option. Again, that lets you see the hidden files. So we've seen that option already. And then 7.3.3, we're navigating to etc. We're looking at hosts. We're listing that file. So ls-l/etc host. And we're looking at the various components of the output. So for example, the timestamp, when the file was last modified or created, the size of the file in bytes, it's 150 bytes, and in subsequent chapters we're going to look at permissions and ownership. In 7.3.4, we're examining the -R option, but in this case it's a big R for recursive. So just to remind you again, okay, when we do the ls-l here, we see the files and directories, and they're in alphabetical order, D, M, P, T, V. So let's go ahead and do it again. ls, I'm just going to use the up arrow to get the previous command, and if I put small r, that is for reverse order. So if we look at it, we have the same thing again, but it's in reverse order. So here are the directories, V, T, P, all the way down to the letter A. Now, let's clear the screen and let's look at a completely different option. Remember, almost everything in Linux is case sensitive. So this time we're going to do the ls- oops, keeps running away from me, ls-big R. Okay, now big R is short for recursive. So that means keep doing what you're doing until you're finished. So what are we doing in this case? We're looking in a directory, and we're looking in the subdirectories and the sub-subdirectories and so on. So when I press enter, there's quite a bit of output there. Okay, I'm not just looking in my current directory, but I'm looking in each of those subdirectories and so on. So recursive just means keep doing what you're doing till you're finished. Look in all the directories and sub-subdirectories and just keep going. In the next lab, in 7.3.5, we're examining wildcards. So this is kind of neat. So let's see what we have here. Let me clear the screen. Okay, and let's see what files we have. So if I type ls, I see there is a file. Oops, let's do that again. ls. I see there's a file 1 and file 2. Let's create a few more. So touch file 3. I'm going to use the up arrow. And now I'm going to do file 10 and a file 11. And you should do the same thing to get some practice. So let's take a look here, ls. Now, how do we use wildcards? Well, the star means anything, 0 or more characters, whereas the question mark means exactly 1 character. So let's see, let's do an ls of a file question mark question mark. So that means we're listing all files that begin with FILE and have exactly 2 characters after it. So if I press enter, there's only 3 files that match that pattern, that wildcard pattern, file 10, file 11, and file 12. However, if I do ls file star, well, that means there could be anything after the E. So it could be 1 character or multiple characters. And to drive this home, let me just create one more file, touch file 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. So let's look at all the files in one scan here. That's everything we created. So if I type ls file star, it should cover everything you see there. And sure enough, everything is there, including the 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Now, let's do something interesting here. Let's do ls question mark 4 times. So that means the file starts with 4 characters and has a 1 and then anything after the 1. So let's see what appears. Let's read this carefully. Question mark means exactly 1 character. So we have 4 question marks. And then we need the number 1, and then anything after the number 1. And those are the files. If you examine each of those files, it matches the wildcard pattern, even including this. Notice there's nothing after the 1. Well, star also can be nothing as well. And we'll go on to the next lab. We're almost at the end here. Okay, so that was the question marks that we just did, and then 7, 3, 7. Okay, we're looking at the square brackets, which we did in the previous chapter. So we're going to go to the etc directory, and we're going to see how square brackets work. Okay, so let's clear the screen, and let's do a quick change here of directories. Change directory. Oops. Change directory, and we'll go to etc. etc is right off the root. That's why the / is there. Let's list all files that begin with A star. Okay, quite a few. So let's suppress the subdirectories because it's also going into subdirectories. So let's clear the screen, and let's hit the up arrow 2 times, and we want to suppress looking at subdirectory, so -D, very important option. And we're going to do this command, okay, let's do it one more time. So there we go, we have files that begin with A. What if we want A and B? Well, here's a little trick. Put the A in square brackets. Okay, so we have it in square brackets, just like we did in the last chapter, and put any other letter you want in there. So I'm going to put B, R, F, anything like that, M. So these square brackets here means 1 character and any one of those 5 characters we see in there, A, B, R, F, M. So if we press enter, sure enough, we see files that start with A, files that start with B, and so on. And we can specify a range. So this time, instead of just simply listing all the letters, I can give it in terms of a range. So let's change this. So we want all files that start with the letter C and go all the way up to the letter G. Okay, so one character, that's what the square brackets means, anything in that range. And sure enough, you have files that begin with C, files that begin with D, and so on, and it takes us all the way up to G. So I think that's it for chapter 7. And chapters 6 and 7 are two very easy chapters. Probably most people will be able to complete them today.